What's up, everybody? Brett here, back with another awesome info dump from the gods of CA, giving us more info on the campaign mechanics of Grand Cathay. I'm excited to be reading it with you guys. I have not yet read it myself, and what we're going to do here today, if you're curious, is we are going to scroll down, we're going to read, we're going to talk about the mechanics, how they're good, how they're bad, all that good stuff. We're just going to nerd out for a little bit here. You guys already know the link to the video. I do not, so you get to know ahead of time how much I ramble versus how much I read. It's a lot to read, so I've been drinking water. But let's go ahead and get into it. Welcome back to TotalWar.com. Okay, we can skip that. The first of a series of articles where we will detail the main mechanics of each faction on the campaign map. Naturally, these are further modified by legendary lore choice, starting position, and then what happens in your own campaign. Legendary lore mechanics will get their own post soon enough. For in-battle mechanics, take a look at the Grand Cathay roster. Okay. So, yeah, we know that already. Do remember that Warhammer 3 is still in development with a due date of early 2022. That means things can change. Don't take all the numbers in the screenshots below as completely, immovably final. That said, feedback is feedback. We look forward to hearing what you think. That's quite enough for the caveats. On to the mechanics. So first up is going to be, let's open these images in new tabs whenever we come across them, because we're going to definitely want to look at this a bit bigger. Harmony. As we've discussed previously, harmony is everything in Grand Cathay. The smooth combination of ranged firepower and stalwart front lines. The well-being of the populace alongside their unswerving loyalty. As well as boosting the power of differently assigned units in battle, you must keep your faction as a whole in balance through considerate building choices, lord picks, and technology. That sounds great. Building is a little straightforward as of now in Total Warhammer 2. Just about everything will nudge the harmony of your faction one way or the other, all tracked by a handy bar at the top of the screen. Should you drift towards one side, it will become cheaper to push back to the center, but your God dang it. My brain just wants to read this as ever-present. Overrepresented buildings will be less effective, and your control of your provinces will drop. So it's urging you to have a diverse build, which I like to do anyway, so it's just going to reward me for my current playstyle. Maintaining the middle point is the biggest reward, giving significant boons to all areas of your empire and a unique army ability to summon the spirits of ancestors long dead to help out in battle. I'm imagining that looks something like the Knights Errant summon, perhaps, for Salastra. That's what I'm envisioning now. We'll see if that proves true. With every research technology, built building, and hired lord trying to dislodge it, maintaining this for an extended period can be challenging, but it's more than worth it even for just a couple of turns. Okay, so it's not showing us anything that represents this as of yet, I don't believe, because this image is for the Wujin Compass. But we have seen yin and yang represented on the actual unit cards in the battles from the previous video. We've seen that ranged units are, I believe, yang. I always get them mixed up, guys. I apologize. They are, I believe, black, while the melee units are white. I do believe. I could have those mixed up. But we've seen that represented in battle, where a ranged and a melee unit standing next to each other both receive buffs. But now we see that it also affects our campaign as well. The Wujin Compass, we'll read about it, and then we'll look at the infograph afterwards, and because all the terminology and stuff being used will make more sense once we know what the heck it is that we're looking at. So the Wujin Compass is a great magical device built into the holy city of Wujin, created by the Celestial Dragon Emperor to control the winds of magic within Grand Cathay. Its primary purpose is to project power to and help defend the Great Bastion when it is under threat, but the progeny of the Emperor can direct it as they wish to serve their purposes. Whenever the compass is directed to one of its 4 points, that area begins to fill with magic. Most provide a faction-wide buff that is always active, with another that is only available when the compass is pointed its way. As that area fills with magic, the passive ability grows in strength. However, if the compass is pointed elsewhere, the magic in the area begins to drop, depowering the passive. This balancing act depends on your needs as well as any emergencies you might be facing, and must be chosen wisely, as there is a turn limit on changing the compass again. Here's a breakdown of the regions and their effects. So this seems to me almost like a mishmash of multiple things that are already in the game. One, ever since Total Warhammer 2, there have been random events, or seemingly random events, where the winds of magic in the world are strong, and all armies benefit from, winds of magic increase of like plus 20 or something like that. However, this is definitely a one-sided buff, and I'm sure the buffs will be greater than simply a winds of magic increase. Let's see here what they are. So, Great Bastion, passive buff provides additional supplies for Grand Cathay armies, defending settlements, and additional casualty replenishment for all armies. I mean, that seems pretty damn good. An active buff decreases recruitment costs and provides a unique army ability to drop meteors on enemies. Oh, damn. I mean, that sounds very good. So, Celestial Lake. So, we're getting a little bit of a heads up into what the provinces are going to be called. Celestial Lake passive buff provides growth to all Grand Cathay factions. I like that. You'll probably be staying on this for a while. Active buff gives additional income and stronger winds of magic growth within Grand Cathay regions. I gotta say, I'm loving the Celestial Lake for pure building tall shenanigans. Warpstone Desert. No passive buff or growing falling energy reserve for this region due to the mass of Warpstone. But the active buff lowers corruption across Grand Cathay, guarantees lower winds of magic reserves, and gives a leadership debuff to enemy armies inside the nation. This one seems to me to be a bit of a panic button. If the Skaven or Chaos are starting to infiltrate, and probably not, you probably won't be looking to experience too much vampiric corruption. But if either of these two factions starts pouring corruption into your lands that's causing problems, this is kind of the panic button that you want to hit. And then the Dragon Emperor's Wrath. Passive buff provides control to all Grand Cathay factions. Okay, so you get a public order bonus. And then active effect only at a full energy reserve applies massive, and they put it again in parentheses, massive attrition to all Chaos forces besieging the Great Bastion. That's pretty sweet. Once again, another panic button. So in yesterday's lore dump, which happened, it was kind of cool. A guy named Andy Hall, who writes Warhammer lore, came out and just gave tons and tons of info on Cathay, and I was reading it. I thought about making a video on it. Other people kind of went and did that first. I don't consider myself a lore master of any description, but I do love the lore. But this new stuff basically talks about how the Dragon Emperor kind of sits in his palace playing with his Wujin Compass, and it's cool that we get a chance to use it as the player. But that's kind of one of the powers of the Emperor, and then the Empress has something more akin to the control of the spy master networks and such. So maybe we'll see more of that represented in gameplay as well. So, and I'm expecting, because of the favoritism that the Emperor shows his daughter to the north, and the favoritism that the Moon Empress shows her son to the west, the Iron Dragon, Storm Dragon, those two, that maybe there'll be some specific Lord mechanics that we'll learn about that interacts with them in that way. So the Wujin Compass, I know this is probably still kind of small and it's a little fuzzy to read, but the Wujin Compass harnesses the power of the winds of magic to bring prosperity to Grand Cathay. Directing the compass fills the respective energy reserve. The greater the energy reserve, the larger the benefits are. However, the energy reserve of all directions will decay over time. So, Great Bastion, Warpstone Desert, Celestial Lake, and then Dragon Emperor's Wrath. Right now, whoever's playing is benefiting from Tier 1 of all of these. They're getting defensive supplies plus 500, casualty replenishment rate plus 4%, 3 growth in Cathay, and 1 control in Cathay. But as we've seen, if you go further down, if you get further along these lines here, you'll start getting more specific benefits. Okay. Back to here. And the Ivory Road. So, analogous to the Silk Road of actual history. Trade is important to Grand Cathay. It not only has a massive population, but a hugely different collection of magical artifacts and native flora and fauna to Kislev and the other nations to the west. Even the Ogre Kingdoms value the delights of Grand Cathay enough to pay for it when they feel like it, or raid the caravans when they don't. Ogre Kingdoms have been dropped so much in all of these different info dumps that it's almost impossible to say at this point that they are not the pre-order race bonus. And they just gotta be. They gotta be. I can't wait to see them, and I think they're gonna be talked about a little bit further on as well. Which brings us nicely to the game mechanics. My eyes can't help but skip ahead and see Ogre Mercenaries. Which brings us nicely to the game mechanics of the Ivory Road, the central trade route in and out of Grand Cathay, running right through the lands of Zhaoming and off to the Empire. When playing as the Grand Cathay faction, you can dispatch a caravan whenever you like, sending it along one of the many paths of the Ivory Road. This will take it through various regions, some of which may prove treacherous. At various points, you choose which direction the caravan will next take, with it progressing naturally across the map. While you don't have direct control over it, it does have vision as a normal army would, giving you important scouting information as it goes. I'm so stoked. I love this idea and principle. We'll just have to see how it plays. With each major rest stop along the route, various events and dilemmas can fire. Found friends, ogre mercenaries, new routes, and many more surprises await upon the road. These can result in battles, bonuses, further cargo, or any combination. Once a caravan reaches a destination, you will receive money based on cargo amount and some other factors, and it will begin to return home. At this point, another caravan can be sent out. I love this type of mechanic. Each caravan has its own leader, a new lore type with a unique blue skill tree for increasing the boons of caravans, extra cargo, more replenishment between rest stops, etc. They can naturally also take various combat upgrades depending on what you think they might get up to. The key to this mechanic is finding safe routes or building caravans that can take the punishment of the big wide world, plus making smart decisions about how and when to fight. If you're opposing Grand Cathay in the campaign, surely you wouldn't dare. You can find their caravans on the map and attack them. Doing so and winning will destroy the caravan, making it a good way to starve them of resources. Of course, it does involve declaring war, with all the diplomatic consequences that entails. The dragons may be pleased if you take out rebel caravans, but less so if you target theirs. I'm in. That sounds super fun. I love having something like this to interact with. Some other objective on the map, something else to protect. I can't wait to see how this plays. All my opinions are basically tied up in how this plays, how impactful this is or isn't. I want it to be moderately impactful, not like if I lose one caravan, I lose my campaign. They can do so much with this. That's a big swing. I'm excited. All right, the Great Bastion here. Open that up in a new tab because I'm seeing a lot of information here. Not the prettiest UI. I have to imagine this is something that will be worked on. The background is just straight up brown, and everything is placed in a bit of a square. But maybe this will be prettied up. Maybe they'll have some art in the background or something like that. That'll change. Okay. Because I do want to read this. I'm seeing a lot here that might give some things away. So the Great Bastion sits in the northmost part of Grand Cathay and is vital to the defense of the Empire, its people, and the world. It also forms a central part of gameplay for the nation. As you can imagine, this is more relevant at the start of a campaign to Mao Ying as she starts in the region, while Zhaoming is busy dealing with rebel lords and various ratmen. That said, threats to the wall are a threat to the Empire, and Zhao will need to keep an eye on it as much as anyone else. The Great Bastion takes the form of a massive impassable wall with 3 gates that must be controlled and held by the forces of Grand Cathay. Chaos forces are constantly attempting assaults on it, but the larger ones come from a slow buildup of forces in the wastes. These must be dealt with through sallying forth and preparing your defenses with commandments at each gatehouse if you hold them. Threat to the Great Bastion is tracked through a meter at the top of the screen, which fills as Chaos prepares an assault and descends if they are defeated. Keeping the threat low and reaching 0 are looked on favorably by the Celestial Dragon Emperor, who will reward those who do so. Allowing a breach as well as earning his ire means Chaos is now rampaging through the soft heartland of Cathay, a recipe for disaster. So this is starting to sound more and more like the way they implemented incursions in the Wood Elf campaign, where they just kind of slowly build up. An army pops up, you get kind of a quest event. If you hurry up and get there, you get to fight a weak army, kind of squash it before it ever gets big, and you get the rewards from that. But if you sit and let it grow and grow, you start to have problems. The army gets stronger, and you start to suffer penalties because of that. The Fortress Gate cities, the Snake Gate, the Dragon Gate, the Turtle Gate, share a unique building tree and commandments. These serve various purposes, and you will need to balance constant vigilance with the need for rest and recuperation at the edge of chaos. Once a gate is returned to its full glory at Tier 5, it reduces the cooldown of using the Wujin Compass. That sounds good in theory. However, I can say from first-hand experience, the number of times in a settlement where like I've started a campaign and got everything to tier 5 is almost never. By the time I've got things to tier 4, I'm like, I've won the game. The game's over. I've conquered, I own half the map. I don't know. I'm hoping that they'll add enough mechanics into the game, especially late game style mechanics, that keep me interested to the point where I genuinely want to upgrade everything to level 5. Because as of right now, it takes so long to get buildings, especially if you're playing as the dwarves. Other factions as well, their growth is so slow. It takes forever to get to tier 5 anything. So here it's giving us a look at, they're hovering over the Bastion fortress rather. There are fewer than 10 fortresses across the breadth of the Bastion, but there are strong points, cities within the wall that hold countless troops. So this is, they're hovering over the 5th and final upgrade of what appears to be Snake Gate. So they get income generated 400, Wujin Compass cooldown -1 turn, diplomatic relations +2 with Cathay, defensive supplies +2500. That sounds like a lot. And then growth +50. It adds walls to the settlement. And when outside Ogre or Norscan homeland, it adds walls to the settlement. Huh. So maybe other races can own these, and it's saying that as long as you're not Norscan or Ogre, it adds walls. I'm not sure exactly what that's insinuating. Maybe you guys read that a little different than I do. But let's look at the garrison real quick. This could tell us some information as well. 3 Jade Warriors with halberds, 3 Celestial Dragon Guard, I'm assuming sword and board variant. Although it's hard to see, they might have the halberd, or halberd and shield variant, I think is what we're looking at here. Celestial Dragon Crossbowmen, those are probably quite sick. 2 Iron Hail Gunners, nice, those are the shotgun blast dudes. 2 Terracotta Sentinels, 2 Grand Cannons, and 1 Fire Rain Rocket. Very cool. Just a quick check on the UI. We see the Harmony. This has got to be the Harmony symbol. Growth, income, control, got it. Snake Gate, corruption, got it. Province effects. And it's showing you which type of corruption there is here. And it looks like each Chaos God has its own type of corruption. Interesting. So I'm seeing vampire. This is like Chaos Undivided, Vampiric, Skaven, Korn, Nurgle, Slanesh, and Tzeentch. They each have their own unique type of corruption. So that corruption mechanic that we talked about, reducing corruption using, I think, the Harmony mechanic, might be more relevant than at first I thought, which I'm glad we took a second to look at that. Didn't realize they'd each get their own corruption. That's interesting. And then last but not least here we have the technology tree, which we'll also look at. Let's open that in the new tab as well. Okay, naturally, Grand Cathay has a technology tree like many of the other races. Once again, pretty boring UI. You can just see at first glance. I have to imagine they may change it over time. This is like the most basic UI I've ever seen. We'll be highlighting anything unique about the layout and mechanics of tech trees in these articles. For Grand Cathay, tech choices are split into 3 branches, which converge a few times through the tree. The central and least large offers minor improvements but doesn't push in either yin or yang direction. The other 2 are broadly focused on melee and ranged combat, though include many other elements, and push in the yin and yang directions respectively. Each technology research pushes your harmony in that direction permanently, with some doing this multiple times. That makes it a balancing act between what you need to buff your armies and your needs for harmony. Once again, I love it, and you can see them represented. I know they're very small, and we'll look at the image in a second here, but you can see it represented in the tech tree. This, along with all the other systems that interact with harmony, can be quite a lot to govern every turn. Having harmony during key battles or moments is more important than maintaining it constantly, though of course you could abandon that track to focus almost purely in one direction. Many technologies give boons to armies that are more one way than the other, and naturally affect the units that are most likely to be in those armies. Of course, each legendary lord has a preference too, and some of their skills can push one way or the other too. A few times the tech tree for Grand Cathay recombines into one central point, then branches out again. Planning your next few turns of research and the armies that you will want to support will give significant boons as you prioritize your route through the tree. There are many dead-end paths with big rewards, but which aren't the prerequisite for anything else. When to take those is vitally important. You can see some of them here: defensive formations and horse bonding, or some such versions of that. Unfortunately, no one's hovering over anything. We can't read it here. Seasoned trackers into drill training, fletching, mentors, hardened bamboo. So drill training probably provides, a little bit of probably like a melee defense, melee attack, or leadership bonus to the peasant tier infantry. Then it goes into Jade stance, which is another dead end, but appears to perhaps buff your more ubiquitous Jade warriors. While here we have fletching mentors that goes down into dragon scales, which maybe gives some missile resistance or armor to your ranged units, which could be quite sweet. Anything really sweet here? Blessed Temple Guardians. Attained aggression. Hardened bamboo. Hardened bamboo might be like an armor bonus to your peasant and Jade units, judging by the small art that we have here. Inner speed, inner chi, harmonic mastery yin, grace of Kuai yin, defensive formations. I mean, these are all very interesting. I love technology in games. I love altering my gameplay based on what technologies I think are the most important. For instance, I play as the dwarves. I love going their tech that ends up giving me great diplomatic bonuses, gives me public order bonuses, gives me trade bonuses, income bonuses. That lends towards a completely different play style where I get all the other factions to kind of love me, and I have this massive trade empire. And then sometimes I play the dwarves and I just want to crush the early game, and I get all of the melee focused, or not melee, all of the battle focused buffs for my early Corlers and dwarf warriors. And my dwarf warriors are like little god tanks, because I pair that with building my lords in the red line tree, and all of a sudden my dwarf warriors are stronger than Longbeards, and I just have this fun campaign based on that. So lots of diversity based on these things. I'm seeing lots of different fun mechanics. I mean, these are 4 mechanics here: technology, Great Bastion, Ivory Road, Wujin Compass. Actually 5 mechanics: harmony, and this is not counting whatever additional changes / new mechanics might be coming from the lords themselves. So this is a lot, and this is very good, and I'm excited. I see no negatives here yet. So let me just read this last bit. For the Dragon Emperor, that's Grand Cathay in a nutshell. All of this is naturally altered by faction bonuses and the capabilities of Zhao Ming, the Iron Dragon, and Miao Ying, the Storm Dragon specifically. We'll get on in that in the future, along with the campaign mechanics for the other factions. So exactly what I was kind of saying. There's still even yet more to glean here. There's probably more tweaking to be done. You know what? Let me look at this image real quick, because it's so hard to see. Nope. That's not what I meant to click. I'm an old man. I'm trying to figure out some of this stuff. But I'm trying to like zoom in here, but I don't think there's a way to do this. When you have an iPhone, you get spoiled. I'm just like, enhance. But I'm seeing here that getting tier 4 of your main building, it looks like it unlocks the ability to recruit Terracotta Sentinels. I wish I could get a better view of some of this other stuff. Some of these look to be just like income related. This maybe, boost your garrison defense. Some of these may boost like public order, stuff like that. But I was trying to see if I could look at some of these unit cards that I can't quite see yet. But I think this is as zoomed in as I'm going to get. But guys, that's going to be it for me today. Click off of these bad boys. If you made it through the whole thing, thank you so much for watching. I hope you're as stoked as I am. I look forward to more news as soon as we can get it. And yeah, that's it for me. Thank y'all so much. Y'all have a good day. And as always, I'll see you in the next one. Take care, guys.